My name is Kwabna Chenche Hinibuati. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsdesk. In our first story this morning, all attention is on the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly as it makes another attempt, the ninth in as many months, to elect a presiding member. The Assembly has been without a Metropolitan Chief Executive and presiding member for several months, and efforts to elect a new one have on several occasions ended in deadlock. But the eighth attempt by the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly to vote for a presiding member a few weeks ago was marred by violence as some assembly members traded punches. Now, an assembly member of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, Abdallah Muaza, allegedly traded blows with National Democratic Congress serial caller during proceedings. Well, ahead of today's elections, Ashanti Regional Minister and head of the Regional Security Council, John Alexander Kon, is urging all to remain calm and put the interest of the Assembly above everything else. Let's go on to the grounds now. Speak to Erastus Asaidonko. He's a reporter in the Ashanti Regional Capital, and indeed he's been following this very issue keenly. He joins me on phone now with a lot more. Erastus, good morning. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsdesk.
Yeah, good morning.
Can you tell us what the situation in the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly today is? What's the build-up to this very election like?
Now we are meeting again this morning at the TUC Public Sector Workers Conference Room, and there is so much optimism that today, before we leave this premises, we will have a presiding member. Now, you know, two people are up, and we are going to vote on them today. That is Ibrahim Regin Shaiso, Assembly member, and then Honorable Adusei, who is the member for Dadia Swaba. Now, we know that per the status quo, it's possible we will not get 2/3 from these two people for the first round of voting. That is the widespread notion. And so there are people who are going to see to it that, well, they step aside, and then we will have fresh limbs who are not linked to any faction within the Assembly, so that they could get 2/3 when voted upon to become PM. I have two of the Assembly members here. Let me quickly speak with them. They represent both factions at the Assembly level. In fact, the old faction, Nana Kofi Senior camp, and then Nana Dumhine camp, as we call them. Let me start with Honorable Afrani. What do you make of today's sitting? How is it going to go? Are we going to have a PM? You've been talking behind the scenes. What is the consensus?
Thank you very much for the opportunity again. And I would say that we're going to get a presiding member today. Why? Because, as you can see, we from the Bafo JKC doing this camp, checking the grounds by saying that he should step down for fresh limbs to come on board, as you're saying. But it was rather than Nakofi Senior's camp, which didn't want to step down. And he stretched it until yes or no votes was voted on him, of which the no was majority, and the logic, he had to step down and he stepped down. Now he's also bringing another person of whom everybody knows to be Ibrahim of Regin Shire. So, and Honorable Adusei, who happened to also contest in the first election, also came up. And they are tagging him to be also from the camp of Adumhine.
So what is likely to happen today?
Just as the scenario you created, that both of them, we know for real that none of them would be able to make the 98 votes of 2/3 majority. So we will beckon on them to step down from all legal and moral means. We will beckon on them to step down. And once they step down, I hope we're going to get somebody, even if from the newly elected members, we will work it through, because KMA needs a presiding member as soon as possible.
Honorable Lawrence, you are from the camp of Nana Senior. Do you agree with your colleague here?
My brother, for now, I would say both camps have softened their grounds, and everything has been done at the backstage. So we are just moving to the house, just do what has been discussed at the backstage. And then the two people in contesting this morning, we'll be voting on them for first time. And then after the first voting, if none of them hits the 2/3, we're going to talk to them for some few minutes, and then we'll come back for them to step down and then bring another fresh lens from the newly elected camp so that we move forward.
And so you are sure we're going to get the PM today?
Oh, surely. I'm assuring Kumasi and Asante we're going to get the PM today.
Well, so Kwabena, you had them there. These people represent both camps at the voting today. So just like you heard, we are going to watch it on the ground keenly and to see if by close of day today we have a presiding member for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly.
Erastus, it's refreshing to hear this, particularly from these two factions. But the key issue has been what really the trigger is. And over the period, we've seen some of these things happen. Now, at the last elections, there was, in fact, a lot of violence. And ahead of this very one, we've had the regional minister come out to call for peace and calm and a general consensus on this very issue. I mean, how does the situation now on the ground look like as far as security, for instance, is concerned?
Well, normally we do not have many policemen at the assembly level, and unlike just like any other day, today we are not having a beefing up of security in any sense. But what they are doing is that, you know, the first fight originated from someone who was really not a member of the assembly fighting with a member of the assembly. Normally you have people in political colors hanging around. So what I've heard is that they are going to restrict them from the main hall, also try to prevent them from coming to the premises itself to prevent some of these fisticuffs. So we are expecting that today's event will not be full of that kind of drama, and then we are going to focus mainly on the main business at the hall.
So that update, but quickly before you go, at what time are the elections supposed to start exactly? The process?
Well, currently, fraternization will be going on, and just around 11, we are hopeful that they will settle down, the speeches will begin, and then we'll have the voting going on. Normally, the voting is just a simple procedure. It doesn't take long. At least within a matter of 30 minutes or 40 minutes, we are done with that, and the counting, we'll know the results, and then we'll move ahead. So that is how it's going to be this morning.
So that update, we'll be coming back to you a little later on for a lot more as far as that very issue is concerned. It has to do with the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly election, the election of a presiding member, and that has been the thorny issue in the Assembly. 8 times they have tried, 8 times they have failed. This is the 9th one. How different is this going to be from the previous 8 we have seen? Well, it appears both factions are now looking forward to consensus building and getting one very presiding member that's going to help in the developmental process. But let's put that on hold for now and talk about something else that's happening. And Ghana has retained its rank of 7th in the 2015 Mo Ibrahim Index, but has recorded a decline on 3 of 4 indicators over the last 10 years. Now, the index seeks to assess the performance of countries by looking at the extent to which it meets the expectations of citizens politically, socially, and economically. Now, this year's ranking, we are told, looked at the performance of 54 African countries over the past decade, spanning 2006 to 2015, as well as the performance in the year 2015 itself. Mohammed Ibrahim is the chairman of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, and he presented those very findings on Monday. Well, a copy of which my colleague Raymond Akwa has, and he's joining me in studio now to walk us through really the indices that were used in this, as well as the indicators via which Ghana fell short. So, Raymond, good morning. Thanks for joining us. First thing is to take a look at these key issues they speak of, but maybe for starters, just give us a picturesque view of what this report says.
So the report actually is based on 4 thematic areas. The first thematic area, which is to do with the participation and human rights indicator, Ghana was ranked 4th out of the 54 countries with a record score of 72.1. If you look at the trend, this is an increase of 0.1 over the period. That's the decade, the 10 years review. Now, in the area of human development specifically, Ghana was ranked 11th with a score of 64.2, and actually Ghana declined in that area by
the area of human development.
1.6% over the same 10-year period. On sustainable economic opportunity, Ghana placed 15th with a score of 39.1. But of course, the decade trend actually shows we decline highest in this area. That is 4.2%. That's sustainable economic opportunity. In the area of safety and rule of law, Ghana scored 70.0, who placed the country at the position of 6th. But then again, the decade trend shows that there's been a decline of some 2.6 in this particular area too. So except for the area of participation and human rights, all the 3 other areas we decline. And these are the areas of safety and rule of law, the other areas of human development, and also sustainable economic development and opportunities.
Well, we know government seems to have a bit of an issue with this very publication. But even before we come to government, let's look at the basis on which these statistics were churned out. On what basis did the Mo Ibrahim Foundation arrive at this very conclusion?
So the Mo Ibrahim actual index is a composite index. It actually combines several other sources, basically 6 of them, international, local, and even at the AFDB level. Let's take, for example, under safety and rule of law specifically, it looks at the judicial independence. It also looks at the judicial process, property rights in the country, and also looks at transfer of power. For transfer of power specifically, it uses data from the EIU, and for sanctions, it uses CDD's Afrobarometer. So under the particular area of rule of law, you can also look at accountability, which is under the same safety and rule of law part. It actually has access to information, which is where, using Transparency International's rating, and we don't have an access information law yet, but it also uses the access information. Online services like UNDSA, the UN body's assessment of provision of ICT and online services, is also what it uses as its data source. Now, in terms of public sector accountability and transparency, it uses both the World Bank's and the Transparency International's reports, including the AFDB's report on transparency. So if you see it in that particular scope, it actually combines reports depending on the subcategory for a particular indicator and puts it out there as the representation of the situation. And the most interesting part of this report is a culmination of what has happened over the last decade, from 2006 to where we are today.
Interesting reports there, but Raymond, many thanks for that update. And that was Raymond Akwa walking us through that very Mo Ibrahim report. The period 2006 to 2015. It suggests that much as the country has retained its 7th position, the country has retained the 7th position, we have declined, should I say significantly?
Not necessarily, especially when it was not enough to push you from where you were previously. So if it was that huge, the only huge decline was 4.2, which took us in the area of safety.
Safety and security.
4.2. And that's what's substantive. Of course, for other countries, there have been 6, 7, 8, and 9% decline in specific areas. When you compare safety, for example, to South Africa, it was a deep decline, which actually brought them down. So we did not know so much of a decline in the areas that we're talking about.
But is that to suggest that the country or the citizenry does not feel as safe as previously?
Okay, under safety, one of the issues they look at more importantly is national security. And by that, they ask for government independence in dealing with armed conflicts.
Okay.
And also, they look at domestic armed conflicts, whether there is none in the country or not, and violence by non-state actors. So the various institutions in the country, how are they fed? And cross-border tensions. So how does, let's say, problems in Cote d'Ivoire or Togo affect what happens in Ghana? The other issue they look at whether there are political refugees, internally displaced persons. We did know that we still have some people hanging out in Togo claiming to be refugees from Ghana, and also Ghanaians who might, because of one conflict or the other in a certain part of the country, move to an area. Those are internally displaced persons. So these are the main issues that they look at under the area of safety anyway.
Okay. Raymond, thanks once again. And Raymond Akwa has walked us through the document. We'll bring you a lot more conversations on this very report that was churned out yesterday by the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. We have details later on right here on your Journey channel. But we're taking a break. We'll be back shortly to tell you some more. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. To some security issues now. And police at Bekwai in the Ashanti region have arrested the man who allegedly murdered a woman described as his girlfriend at Koniyao near Bekwai. The arrest of the man, identified only as Frenchman, sparked protests from residents who demanded instant justice. Well, joining us has more.
Frenchman is said to have inflicted multiple cuts on a woman whose name is given as Betty, resulting in her death on Friday night. It is unclear the motive for the dastardly act, as he went into hiding after committing the incident soon after they had returned from a wakekeeping. Police arrested him at a nearby town on Monday after 3 days of search, as some residents identified him in an attempt to escape. Residents of Koniyao, upon hearing of suspect's arrest, stormed the Bekwai Divisional Command headquarters, demanding to see him. Police and some local volunteers put up a strong resistance, resulting in exchanges injuring at least one person. The angry youth are threatening revenge on the volunteers, who are said to be butchers.
See all will be our head. Another son and was the phone on the pass, on the penny Fiano, and to come to Siliano. You know, the blessing from the one, as your coma. Say, I can almost have a baby. I penny it was another police station here. Oh, by the independent.
Meanwhile, relatives of the deceased are mourning for the loss of their daughter. Her mother, Akuya, suggests the suspect is a violent man who threatens to harm the people he disagreed with, at least, or no provocation.
Betty Pia was say, Betty will be a kudino, or no, Chino, Kurubasa Basa. To the same, no, any word them up when I miss me where them will be. So, this is yes, or any corner, I know whole Betty moon, and I miss some land in moon, a son of Bernard Italian training base anymore. In the action of a catch him say, when any dear going yard, you'll bet me a day, I ain't be and to me, my just say beer, mine bet me a day. I be cool, or be a son in any dear. You mean I'll show so over. My choice is a kind of sick idea, and you no be a cassa, no, I just a kind. So we are bearman, we are bone, no, I just a kind of fan in San Monica.
Head of the family, Ejasa Akwadie, says he was informed by a nephew after Friday's incident. Frenchman had alluded to killing Betty with a knife.
Already now, Casano, more fast about who fear my born a man, yes, sir. Wobekum, Minia, Wobekum, more fast. And the time no boys are crying a man, yes, and Wobekum more fast. No, send a cranny timber at the bottom, my man, make a baby son at the coin. When the iron or so bad, Wobekuno. And when Timia makes Bo Obia Mania Coping time say, one baby Mania by a wide Wokuno after them on.
Efforts to get official comment from the police were unsuccessful after a long wait in the absence of the commander.
Now, alerted adult residents of Kote and surrounding communities near the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology are happy to learn to read and write. The excitement comes on the back of an adult literacy program launched by a group of final year students of the university. Live FM's Kwesi Debra reports yet again.
The initiative, dubbed Nkechi, is a can, which means it's never too late. It is spearheaded by Vice Chancellor Professor Kwesi Obridanso. Program coordinator Samuel Kotelaye Kwote says it is a way to give back to the communities for providing a place for the university to thrive.
We thought it was to bring about such an initiative that will foster community university relations, right, and also have a great impact on the people, not just for a short moment in time, but then also for a lifetime.
About 200 community members will undergo a 6-month tuition-free course beginning this month, after which they will receive certificates. Participants are optimistic the course will help them to appreciate and fit into a rapidly changing world.
But today, I'm a young and your papa said, I'm Baba Bechere, dear, a omo ji ehwe na chese yempia simple yempia dama na ye bibia ye be sua nyina be free dia
me de me hu say program na eye pa ayi na ma ye na eye pa che se bi ye na ya nko school dey na nipa bi adwe hu asem so mu no na me aye modom mu de wotime ko school ni bi onso nya ye ho adwe so be kire me yesu hu se ne da chi bi ko du ba bi na ye ka brofu bi anasa dwo bi wo ho na ye de
Head of English Department, Dr. Peter Arthur, noted a literate population will enhance national development.
See, when you are talking about no economy is isolated. All economies are linked to world development. You understand? And here we stand, we have world international language being English. Now, if the person is not literate, if the person cannot speak English, if the person cannot read English, how is he going to be associated? How is he going to be hooked on to the world?
The SRC president, Samuel Mwakukusi, says plans are far advanced to extend ICT education to pupils in the community.
We'll be rolling out an ICT project where we have again students who want to volunteer, bring out their own laptops and their ICT gadgets, come around and also teach the children in the community our basic ICT skills.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
Now, the 2016 edition of the largest Pan-African Agribusiness Conference and Expo put together by the African Agribusiness Incubators Network is under the theme Turning Science into Business, Inclusive Agribusiness Incubation for Vibrant Economies in Africa. The conference will also focus on rebranding agribusiness to unlock youth potential. Well, that very program, we're told, is currently ongoing at the Accra International Conference Center, and in a bit we'll be crossing over to get we'll actually be crossing over to get you the words of the president, who is actually the guest speaker for this very occasion. I said, when we do have the feed, we'll cross over live now for that very story.